Too many pastors are carrying around a picture of a preferred future that they have not started moving towards. They can see it. Maybe this is you. They can describe it. They can tell you what would be healthier if it existed. Like they know what needs to change. And still, they have not started the effort to turn that vision into fruition. And this delay, it's more important than it may look on the surface. Because when a pastor delays something he already knows needs to change, he usually assumes the problem is one of timing or capacity or complexity. And sometimes those things are real, but often there is something more specific happening underneath the delay. Let me just ask you, have you ever envisioned a future that felt one necessary, but also too overwhelming? Like, have you ever envisioned a preferable future and it felt so necessary? It just created a fire in you of what could be and what should be, and it was fueling something in you. But the more you thought about it, you just felt overwhelmed by it. I mean, have you ever considered a future that feels so large, right, that you don't even know how to begin? That's the leadership tension I want to talk about in this conversation. Because this is where I think a lot of really good pastors get stuck. Not because, right, you are resistant to change, and it's not because you're incapable of leading or leading change, but maybe you just feel overwhelmed by the size of what you know needs to happen. And when the future feels like that heavy, leaders often just freeze at the starting line. I mean, this is like a real pattern, you know? Let me give you an example, right? A pastor maybe sees a healthier plan for discipleship or communication or programming or alignment or, I don't know, maybe just next steps. And that pastor, right, he can see how much better it would be if that happened. Like he can imagine the church functioning with greater intention. He can fill the gap between, what is and what could be. But then comes the pressure. How do we even start? Where do we begin? What do we do first? How much is going to have to change? How much capacity and time is this going to take? How how much resistance are we going to create? And that is usually where momentum dies before the first step is even taken. That beautiful preferred picture gets overwhelmed by the reality of making it happen. And so we end up frozen before we even get moving. That's exactly what I want to help you with. The mistake that, and maybe you, but many pastors make in that moment is assuming that they need to solve the entire thing before moving at all, right? They start thinking in finished systems or full rollouts and broad implications and complete clarity and total alignment, as if all of it has to be figured out at once. And then once we have that in place, right, now the future starts to can happen. But here's the reality: thinking about all of that just makes the future feel heavier. And now every first step just feels inadequate, right? Every small move feels too small. Every conversation just, I don't know, feels incomplete, worthless, pointless. So what do? Pastors, we wait. We keep thinking, we keep discussing, we keep looking for more clarity, more information. We keep carrying, and this is heavy, we keep carrying the burden of what needs to change without actually stepping into that change. It's almost like we want that big splash, so to speak. And I think that is exhausting for leaders. And it creates a very specific kind of fatigue, because you're not tired from movement. You're tired from carrying unstarted change that is necessary. Listen, that's a real weight. And it's heavy to carry. It drains energy. It can start even clouding your confidence. It can make pastors feel like they are just behind in ways that they really can't even fully explain. And the longer that goes on, the easier it becomes to normalize the gap between the future that you want and the reality that you are leading. Listen, that is why the first step matters so much. Not because the first step, it solves everything, But the first step breaks the inertia. And once inertia is broken, leadership starts feeling a lot better, a lot different. In fact, this is the shift I would love for you to consider. Instead of asking, how do we build the whole thing? So think about that preferred future. Think about that vision. Think about that necessity, that change that you know is necessary, okay? I would love for you to stop asking, how do we make it all happen? I think that question, it is so heavy, especially at the beginning. Instead, here's what I would love for you to ask. What is the best and easiest first step in the direction of our preferred future? Let me read that again. Let me say it again. What is the best and easiest first step in the direction of our preferred future? That is a much better leadership question. Because now, right, you are not demanding total resolution. You're not asking the first step to carry the whole future. You're asking it to do what first steps are actually supposed to do. Just create a little bit of movement, create a little bit of progress. Pace, who cares? Progress is what we're after, and that's it. And that matters because movement, you probably know this, movement often produces clarity, the kind that you couldn't really access while you were standing still. I mean, a lot of pastors think that clarity has to come first. And clarity about the first step is important, but clarity around every single step that it's going to take, there's no way to have all that. So if you're waiting for ultimate clarity, you're probably never going to get there. But clarity around the first step, well, that allows you to take that first step and begin creating movement. Like, again, clarity often comes, after movement. So what do? Well, it's actually kind of simple. You just take the first step in the direction of the preferred future. And then you learn something because you took the step. And then you make an adjustment. And now you can see things a little more clearly, allowing you to, you guessed it, take the next first step. One step, evaluate, grow, take the next step. And you continually repeat that process. And guess what? With every step, you get a little bit closer to that preferred future. And not only that, as you get closer, that preferred future gets more clear because you are gaining clarity as you step, not as you stand. This is actually how almost all healthy ministry change unfolds. It never really happens in one grand moment of complete strategy. It happens in a series of intentional moves, steps that keep carrying the church towards that healthier future. I mean, so what might that look like? It might look like something like simply one step instead of redesigning the whole discipleship pathway. Like if it's a discipleship issue, maybe it's just fixing one step along the pathway. It might look like fixing one point of confusion in your Sunday service experience instead of trying to overhaul, everything that's happening at once. It might look like one key conversation with your staff team where you stop talking in broad ideals and decide on one practical adjustment. It might look like clarifying one ministry lane or removing one obstacle or making one decision that aligns the church a little bit more closely with the future that you say you want. And listen, no matter how small that one step is, that is not small leadership. That is wise leadership. Because here's what wise leaders know, that momentum usually grows through kind of doable faithfulness, not dramatic complexity. So if you've been carrying a change that feels just too big to begin, here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to take that preferred future that you keep thinking about, and I want you to name it clearly, but then I want you to stop asking how to build all of it, and instead ask that other question. What is the best and easiest first step in the direction of our preferred future? I mean, sit with that question long enough to answer it honestly. I mean, what can actually be done? What step is wise enough to matter and light enough to begin? That's the step that you're looking for. And once you identify it, take it. Like, don't improve it for 3 or more weeks, right? Don't overframe it. Don't wait until it becomes more impressive. No matter how small the step feels, just take it. Take the step. Because once movement begins, the future stops feeling quite so impossible. And I'll tell you why, because you are one step closer to it. And it may not feel insanely significant, and it may take a little more time than you were hoping. It may require a little more clarity, more conversations along the way, more alignment, more decisions. But now you're not standing still under the weight of it. You are moving forward as you carry it. And that changes, right, how leadership feels. It changes how your team responds. It changes kind of how progress becomes visible. It changes how hope starts kind of returning to the process. So let me just leave you with this. The first step, just remember, the first step is not supposed to carry the entire future. It is supposed to move you in the direction of the future. And that is enough for now. So if the change in front of you feels way too big, do not ask how to finish it, right? Ask what is the best and easiest first step, then take it. Because that is how intentional change begins and eventually can end. The one real move in the direction is the move that gets us healthier because it's pointing us to that healthier future.